What is going on? Welcome back to Fanatic Journey. So today we're going to give you a good overview of ChargePoint, go over some of the latest data points, what's been coming out, and where I see things going in the short term. Before I get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that, let's get right to it. So currently it is flat. So a little bit more on the volatile side today, with 806 being the low, 826 being the high, but volume is just lower today. So 4.86 million shares being traded versus 8.7 is the average. At the time of doing this video, there hasn't been any news, no SEC filings at all today. So the last news being this about the 150 million in revolving credit by the syndicate of banks. So of course that's a pretty positive sign, but there is some articles coming out today talking on how ChargePoint does have a lot of big red flags associated to basically their balance sheet. And looking at their balance sheet, based on their last earnings, they do have 283.35 million in cash equivalents and short-term investments versus 315.91 million in debt. So I think this is why ChargePoint has really been lagging the EV market, especially during the last little bit. The whole EV sector has just been going up, whereas ChargePoint started to kind of deviate off of that and trend lower. So once again, especially with the Feds recently raising the rates once again, kind of makes you look at a lot of companies that are heavily reliant on debt and to see how feasible is it, because based on their last earnings, of course they haven't submitted their Q2 earnings as of right now, but again, based on their last earnings, they were burning roughly around $300.47 million in operations or from operations. So looking at their cash and so forth, it isn't really going to cut it. So again, this is what does have people very concerned a little bit. But once again, this 150 million in revolving credit definitely can help. But no matter what, I think whatever way you spin it, they will need to dilute, which hopefully not a huge amount. But keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor, so you guys always do your own due diligence. I'll give you guys a good overview of everything that you need to know, starting off with options activities. So today there is $400,000 in calls being purchased versus 301,000 in puts. So kind of evenly divided. Today it's basically about 52% bullish. So people are anticipating it to go up a little bit, but still at the end of the day, it can go anywhere. If you are bullish though, looking at this shows all the calls based on the expiry dates and strike prices. It is anticipated to go around the 850 by the end of this week and potentially as high as around 950 going into next week. And when it comes down to big money, they haven't necessarily been buying on the secondary market. So last being on July the 25th, and that was for $195,000. And dark pool has been pretty active lately, so 4 transactions today, but looks like yesterday it was pretty active. A lot of people don't like the dark pool because it is linked to shorting. So I'll give you guys a quick overview of what is happening there. So short score is currently 85, utilization is 92.71%, and currently shorts are increasing 231,000 shares, which kind of is a lot, but in reality, in the bigger picture, it's not, because 64 million shares overall are being shorted. 21.27% of the free float is being shorted, or sorry if I said that wrong, 21.27, but cost to borrow average is 10.62%, and that's going down a little bit today. And the reason why that does go down is because merely it's just a supply and demand. So whenever there is more available shares to loan and kind of borrow, this is why it does go down. And especially looking here at the momentum indicator, shows number of retail investors have been getting in. So clearly a lot of newer investors maybe not knowing that they might be lending out their shares. This is what causes this whole cost to borrow to go down a little bit. So it's all correlated in the grand scheme of things. Looking at stochastic though, it is at 27, a little bit more of a bearish sentiment. So if it does continue, then in reality it could be perceived as oversold a little bit. But a couple other updates, I'll give you guys a quick overview of this. So as far as analyst ratings, there hasn't really been anything. Looks like as of May the 30th, looks like last month, yeah, May the 30th, or give or take. If you are looking for a lot of good compiled information such as this, take a look at Interactive Brokers. I've linked to them in the description below for completely free stuff like this. So analyst ratings, forecasts. I like to look at forecasts because it does give you a good overview of what analysts are doing, especially to monitor any changes. And based on this, they haven't really changed anything over the last little bit. So currently, based on the upcoming Q2 earnings, which has not been announced as far as I'm aware, there's 9 analysts with a consensus of negative 15 cents for their earnings per share. And for revenue, it looks like it is anticipated to have 15 analysts with a consensus of 153.88 million. And that one, it looks like an analyst recently jumped on board but gave a little bit more of a bearish, because it did go from 154.13 million to 153.88 million. So a little bit more of a negative viewpoint on that. In addition to that, big money. So it is that time of season when institutions do disclose their positions to the SEC in the form of 13Fs. And so this is the latest grouping. So you do see some kind of made brand new positions right here. And then it looks like Barclays did make a brand new put position. And also at the same time, they did reduce their calls by 100%. So a little bit more of a negative in that regard, but you do see a lot of institutions increasing their position pretty significantly. So again, it's kind of evenly divided. A lot of people do believe that the whole EV sector is going to flourish, and probably ChargePoint is going to piggyback off of that success and that demand. So definitely there's that attribute. But once again, as I mentioned, a lot of articles are bringing up their balance sheet and how it's not really favorable. So you kind of have that even divide that is happening right now, which of course is even apparent through options. So let me know your guys' thoughts. So when it comes down to where it might be going in the short term, with the fib levels right now, how they are, and it being at $8.11, it is right on this S1. So 809 is that very strong support, and so far it's actually held. $8.60 is that next big resistance. I personally do feel that it might push to around 820, 825, and then retry to break below this again. I do feel that it will not go below this 777. But of course, that is just merely a guess, because of course there is some economic data, so jobless claims, and also there is ADP non-farm payroll coming out tomorrow, which definitely could really dictate which way the market does go. So I feel in reality, there is a lot of optimism and bigger picture. ChargePoint is going to do a lot of good things, like I mentioned, but I think in the short term, it might be actually going down a little bit and touching this $7.77 range. But once again, I could be wrong. I actually own ChargePoint, so regardless, I am just thinking kind of bigger picture, but short term, I'm never really trying to catch the bottom per se, because sometimes that could be a very much losing game, right? Because if you're always waiting for the bottom, you might miss out on a very good rally. But of course, that's just my thoughts. With that said, I appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. Take advantage also of this promo with Moomoo. Link in the description below and also the comments. Sign up for a free account, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000, so complete no-brainer. And also you do get a $50 cash reward, so this is a win-win. Link in the description below and also the comments. With that said, I appreciate you guys watching. Let's all make a lot of money on ChargePoint.